Did you see that Zed announced a huge big change? They are now ZX.
I I saw it because you texted to me a few nights ago, and and then I had to go read something else before going to bed because I didn't want to have nightmares.
It's
Oh,
okay. It's okay. We're gonna get very little.
so okay, so I'm gonna lay some groundwork for this new conversation.
Okay.
Zed is a game that uses NFTs of racehorses to compete in actual on blockchain races and potentially win some money. Now, the details of how you could win money and how much you could win have varied greatly over the past several years. It is the thing that John used to get me into like NFTs really. First thing was technically Top Shot, but that was very much just a like collectible card game that maybe you could flip for profit, which I did and used to buy my first horse. Um, when I started, you could grind out small amounts of money in free races. That was only true for about 2 weeks. And then they basically took the money and put it behind a paywall. I didn't like that, but it does make a certain amount of sense if you're trying to make a profit making business. It's hard to give out free money. Um, but it just kept getting worse and worse for us. We did some smart things. We did some research. We got a breeding program. We were putting money into the Z economy. Not a lot, but some. And we were putting a lot of time into their product. And eventually they decided that really what they needed to do, much like the American economy, was transfer all of the wealth from the middle to the people at the top. So we stopped participating in that optional economy. If only we could do the same with the American economy.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Um, Now they are rebranding their failed product from Z into ZX, and they released a giant press release about how that process was going to go, what vaguely what having Z assets might mean to you as the transition into ZX. The long and short of it being, if you've been handing us a bunch of money in paid races, you're going to get a lot more than if you just own horses. So John and I are unlikely to get very much, if any, when it
Yeah.
all works out. And regardless of what they give me, I will immediately sell it.
It will depend on what they're good, what people are. If people go crazy, I'm definitely selling. I don't think people will go crazy. They've lost so much of the goodwill they had. It was, yeah. I think the product has potential, but they have, and this is the frustration I have with the space generally. You know, I spend a lot of time in the quote unquote Web3 space on social media. I, it's very navel gazing. It's just really, really super navel gazing. Like it's such a small. I talk about this all the time in my spaces, so I'm not like telling on myself or anything, but like people just like fight over scraps, man. Like instead of looking out and trying to do the real hard work of like changing the perception of the space from outside the space, you know, to get people to actually, you know, customers for all the stuff these people are selling. They just like fight amongst themselves for a share of a community that's like too small to support the number of people who are trying to profit from them. You know, it's just a lot of people like basically just trading money back and forth. I mean, they're artists I love, and I'm glad they can like they have a place to sell their stuff. I think that's great, but like I wish that there were people from outside the space buying the stuff instead of just people inside the space trading it around, which feels like it's a something of a zero-sum game eventually. It's
Yeah, I mean it's certainly limited. Like people are putting additional of their some people are putting additional of their phone funds in, so like the overall pot does grow, but only as a percentage of income that people are making and willing to put in from their what do they call them, fiat jobs.
yeah, that is one of the words. Yes, that's enough. It's real jargony. I wish they would cut the shit with that. I really do. Like everything's got to be cute. It's like there was a coin that came out that was like 404 because that was the like code when a website didn't come up, and it's like, do you guys want other people to like you? Like I get it. I do. You know, it's cool to feel special, right? That's why people end up in cults. I might maybe Web3 is a cult. I can't if
I
because if it is, I wouldn't know because I'm in it, right? So like
Well, see, I
I have
don't
to
think
accept that
I
possibility.
think it would reach like the least destructive kind of cult, like the like Herbalife, like the modern modern commercial cult where it's like, yeah,
Like the secret.
you're paying for benefits that aren't really there, but does it actually matter if you feel better about your life? Because that's the same thing as like paying for entertainment. Like,
Yeah.
I'm using my money to make myself happier. Good. That's cool. Are you hurting anyone else?
Yeah.
Then I don't care what you do with your money. Now, I assume I don't have any direct experience with it, but from what I've seen, on Twitter and such, there are people in the Web3 space that do hurt others.
Yes. There
Um,
are no there are quite there okay. I think it's important to be careful here because I was about to say there are a lot, but I want to be very clear on this point. There are a representative number of scumbags in the Web3 space, meaning it's about the same percentages in every other space,
every other
which means
economy
that there,
or
yeah, which means there are a significant number. Like, because that's just, unfortunately, that's reality. So, um,
because people are selfish.
yeah, it really isn't that. I mean, just if you're honest with yourself, like that's just what it is. Like one thing I am resentful about is the way the space is covered from outside because it is covered like this is and okay, to be fair to some extent, it is it is justified in that leaders in the space, or at least people who got attention in the space, and this may be something of a feedback loop, but they were like the anarchist hero archetype, right? They were like, we're going to change the world and we're going to take down the system and we're going to be finally there'll be real money. And I'm not saying that they don't have points considering the current distribution of wealth and maybe shaking that up isn't a bad idea. But they you can very easily make that person look like a kook. You know what I mean? It isn't
Well,
a
and and even the ones that were successful within the space mostly just replicated the top heavy economy that capitalism does. Like because
yeah, they just capitalized. They were just
yeah,
they just came in and did capitalism shit.
it's
Yeah,
like, oh,
like
I
that's
was
the
first and I have all the stuff. I want to make sure I keep all the stuff. Oh, so
most of the stuff. Yeah.
you just replicated the problem you said you were going to fix. Okay, I see.
Yeah, there is an idealism that is attached to the blockchain that's really kind of beautiful because it is about like decentralized decision making and like a better distribution of wealth around the world and just an easier access to opportunities to grow said wealth. But there's also a lot of people who are full of it who tell that story, and it's like as I said, it's like everywhere else, man. Like the problem is like the people who are full of shit sound just like the people who are
Hmm.
totally like righteous and truthful, and telling the difference is like super fucking hard. So
Yeah, the only way you ever really know is you give them all the money and see if they distribute it or keep it, and
yeah.
then it's too late to make an informed decision. I mean, I really like Web3 for art and like fun collectibles, and I think it has a lot of potential for gaming. That has yet to be realized. Um, I had a bad experience with someone who said they were going to create a game. It sounded like it was going to be cool. I sunk a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names. John knows the name. I don't like him, and he's actually probably the reason I don't do Web3 anymore. Like, I make a little bit of digital art. John makes a ton of digital art. Um, I knock around and look at things mostly so I can talk to John about them, but I just, I want a certain thing. And for the most part, that thing is to get the thing I'm told that I'm going to get. And Web3 isn't at a place where that happens routinely yet. Like
No,
people
that's
overpromise and underdeliver, and I don't have the energy for disappointment in something that I'm choosing to do as like, entertainment and
fun.
self-enrichment.
Entertainment. Yeah. That
I,
makes perfect sense to me, honestly.
I
Like, genuinely. Like, I just, you got rug. Like, this is a pretty common experience. And I think it is probably a pretty common experience with emerging markets. This is my first, like, actual experience with an emerging market. So, like, I'm guessing to some extent, but, like, it's, what I see is I sit there and I look and I'm just like, I didn't, I have no business training. Like, I just have watched businesses. I've been inside business. I've run accounts, security accounts, things like that. So, like, I understand, like, take in more money, spend less, profit. Um, and so, just looking at it simplistically, like, there were a lot of times where, like, projects came in and I used to run pretty big NFT spaces on Twitter, or help run. Don't want to oversell my place. I was like third chair, but a lot of people would tell a story of what they were doing, and I was like, okay, and money go up how? I don't, like, just, like, through hope and hype, and that was a lot of the plan, which it's not a long-term business plan. Like, you're trying to build sort of an entertainment brand, and you're not really putting out much entertainment. It's a tough sell if you actually start and think about it. But people were so excited about the technology and being there early, and that was being fed back into, that people were just kind of throwing money at stuff, and it was working out sometimes because market go up before it crash dead. Like,
yeah, I
if
mean,
you get
and
out,
from a functional standpoint, an emerging market is not unlike a pyramid scheme in that when it starts, the early people are bolstered by the larger numbers of people who are coming in later. Because that's how,
yeah,
some a small group find out about a thing, then a slightly larger group, then the population at large, and you have larger and larger tiers of people that are kicking in money. It may not be a lot of money individually, but as you build those tiers with more and more people, it allows the people at the top to reap benefits. Now, in a pyramid scheme, the plan is always to pull the rug out from under the people at the bottom. Like, it's just to get your
yeah,
profit and run. Certainly not all of these NFTs and digital spaces were pyramid schemes,
no,
in that sense, but they wound up working the same just because eventually you went to build that next tier and there was nobody there.
yeah, and listen, they've started building a vernacular around, like, so there's a rug, which is really the pyramid scheme. The rug is like, the whole plan was, we're gonna mint a bunch of NFTs, make a bunch of promises, but as soon as we mint out and have the money, we're gonna do the bird, right? Like, we're just that's just a hard rug. It's a con, right? And the soft rug has sort of become the vernacular for a failed business, like, just a failed project, like, but sort of a project that, like, it didn't even get far enough to, like, it's what you were talking, right? It's the, like, there was a plan, accepted investors, and then just, like, if not immediately, before too long, the project was just clearly abandoned by the creator. And that all progress stops. So I think the mistakes I made in retrospect, I invested in that same project that you did, was really not being. I bought into friends' projects, right? Like that was an example of that. I like that one because like the guy is really an interesting fellow, honestly. And when you think about what it actually takes, like for good games to get made, because we play good games, right? And there were so many people with NFT projects where that was the plan. Like, here's art, making a game. But then, like, if you looked at their team, like, if what we had decided to do was like, we're going to invest in, we're going to really look at the teams, and we're going to see who we think has the all of the necessary technical abilities to actually build a a game that we think will be sufficiently popular for our investment to pay off. I think our conclusion, if we actually sat down and like did the homework we did for Zed, would have been like, man, we shouldn't buy any of this.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say to that is I have multiple definitions of a good game.
Yeah, that's fair
I,
enough.
I mean, I play a lot of top tier titles with great graphics and an immersive world, and I like that kind of game. I also play some very like still like 8-bit, 16-bit level graphic, interesting
Yeah,
development of a character. It's I graphics are not my graphics are not my number one thing. There's a certain kind of game like I don't want to play a first person shooter that's graphics are Wolfenstein 3D anymore. I'm past that with that. Like a first person shooter, I want to be a Far Cry, something that where it feels more real. But
yeah,
if I'm playing some sort of like top down RPG or something, I don't necessarily need really complex coding of like
yeah,
real time physics or anything like that. I just need, a good level progression and interesting skills and abilities and items and those sorts of things. And that's what I was hoping for from within the NFT
yeah,
space. Now, on a parallel, I think that you know titles that exist out there that are really high grossing games probably could, if they did it well, integrate NFTs, allowing people the ability to, trade weapons to each other or even sell weapons to each other,
yeah,
armors, those sorts of things. I think they could do it, and that's a dip, but that's not, from within the Web3 space. That's not what I was looking for. I don't need that. You can
yeah,
make your NFTs and like, oh, like I don't want to buy a loot box from Ubisoft to get a gun. But if I were playing your Web3 game and I can just go buy an NFT off of someone, whether it's you, the creator, or someone else who got it from a loot drop, and I
yeah,
can go buy that NFT to get my character the type of weapon or the specific weapon that I want or the skin or whatever, that is much more palatable to me than the random box from $1 billion company.
yeah. It feels like a no-brainer win for everyone to for integrate NFTs in the way you're saying to particularly titles that are already like popular and basically already have economies. So it's like it's happening anyway. But company, if you invest in NFTs, you can actually set it so it has royalties. So welcome to another income stream. Every time someone sells it on the secondary market, you're going to get a piece. Not all markets do that, but that is an option. I don't know, and honestly, if corporations are getting involved in this,
They're
I'd
they're
be
certainly going
like
to use one of those markets.
super shocked, right? Like now, can people get around that stuff? Yeah, they can. They can do the trade thing, and then like put money on the side. That's the kind of stuff that's going to have to be like. Here's the thing: it's the blockchain. People see what you're doing. Like, so they're at least going to be able to see that the weapon was traded. Now they can just do a cash transaction outside, but like that's just people break. Like you first, you have to make the rules. so that that's not allowed, right? If that's a concern, and I think it's fair for that to be a concern, right? So, and I think there should be, I don't know that you necessarily need laws for the blockchain. I think you can apply laws to the blockchain, like to the transactions that happen on the blockchain. Like maybe you do. One way or another, I believe
I mean,
regulation is
all
necessary.
the way back to, all the way back to like Ultima Online, but to bring it to a more modern game that people listening might actually recognize, other than my four friends. World of Warcraft. You could go and buy gold from a gold farmer, where people in like China set up mills of computers where people just worked for 50 cents an hour to grind out gold, and then sold it to Americans for real money. um, Blizzard made that against policy. Now, that wasn't a law. That didn't have any impact in the real world. They couldn't regulate the economy. But what they could do
Yeah,
is, if they saw regular trades of gold between, one character and other characters, they would ban everyone involved from playing their game, which was their right as a private company.
yeah.
Um, so you could certainly do something like that if you were I'm going to say Ubisoft, because they make a lot of good games. They make a lot of the games that I play. Ubisoft is a, okay, I want to be careful how I say this. Technically, like on a technical level, Ubisoft is a horrible company. The their interfaces that they put out, their the way you like can join other players' games, the Ubi Connect that they put out because they wanted to have like their own thing. They didn't want people to join each other through Steam and Epic. They're
Yeah.
bad at that. So I don't think they should
Okay.
be the company to introduce NFTs, and they were going to be. They posed it as a thought, for one of their games. They were like, we're looking into having our drops be NFTs that would be able to be traded on an internal market. They were going to create their own market. And as much as I want to see that happen in like large dollar gaming, as soon as they said they were going to do it, I was like, no, please, God, no, no, anybody else, anybody, I don't care, anybody else.
Wizard, we can make up. We can make up, Wizard.
um,
Uh,
so, but it's one of those things where you could do that. Like, you could have the NFT trading and then just monitor it the way Blizzard did with Warcraft. Like, oh, look, and it'd be even easier because it's on blockchain, so you wouldn't have to guess. Like, because Blizzard was using circumstantial evidence, basically. Like, this account is played for 24 hours a day. It does nothing but collect gold and trade it to people. Probably, and I think it's a safe conclusion, this is a gold farmer. And so
yeah.
we're just going to ban them and anyone they traded gold to. That, it's in the terms and conditions, like they're allowed to do it. Uh, if you're dealing with the blockchain, you don't have to guess like that. You can just go look and say, well, look, this we watched it, we saw it happen. Here it is.